Support WrestleTalk!
Donate on Patreon.
All In, the show which sold out 10,000 seats in Chicago in just 30 minutes, is going to be jam-packed full of some of the best independent wrestlers in the world from promotions like Ring of Honor and New Japan. And looking at the card, Cody and the Young Bucks have done a stellar job of getting some of the best wrestlers in the world to come and compete on their show. There's a lot of their mates, but they're mates with some of the best wrestlers in the world, so what are you going to do? It is time to predict what we think is going to happen as the matches unfold. First up on the 0 Hour pre-show is the Briscoes versus SoCal Uncensored. Well, the Briscoes are the current Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions. They've been them 9 times, so they're pretty much tag team specialists. They're also, interestingly, alongside Christopher Daniels, the only performers currently in Ring of Honor that were there at the very first event. Now this could go one of two ways. This could be an attempt to set up a feud for the tag titles when they go back to Ring of Honor, so we could have Frankie Kazarian and Scorpio Sky go over, setting that up for their return. However, I think it's more likely that the Briscoes are going to win because they're just the scariest dudes I've ever seen. The over-budget Battle Royale. This match really puts the all in. It includes Bran, Cutler, Colt, Cabana, Marko, Stunt, Jimmy Jacobs, Billy Gunn, Brian Cage, Rocky Romero, Jordynne Grace, Ethan Page, Moose, and more. But you can forget all of them because I reckon somebody else is going to come bounding onto the scene, and that person goes by the name Flip Gordon. You may remember recently that Flip lost his title shot against Nick Aldis for the NWA Championship, which means that he couldn't be at All In to face Cody, as that is a match scheduled for later in the card. However, during the match, Cody was on commentary and really put over Flip Gordon and teased the idea that he was going to book him for All In, but it's not happened yet. And they seem to be really leaning into this idea that Flip hasn't yet been booked for a match at All In. So maybe he is a surprise entrance in the Battle Royale, because the winner gets to go on to face Jay Lethal for the Ring of Honor Championship later in the night. And what a Cinderella story for Flip that would be. So there, my big bold prediction is that Flip Gordon is going to flip on out and flip his way to a match with Jay Lethal. Then again, they might just give it to someone like Jimmy Jacobs just to get one up on those WWE knobbers. Or Neville. Moving on to the main card, and we've got the Young Bucks and Kota Ibushi versus Rey Mysterio, Rey Fenix, and Bandido. So this is 3 members of the Golden Elite. Well, they don't have their own tag team name yet, I don't think. It could be the Golden Bucks, which I think was Sir Francis Drake's ship. It's the Golden Hind, I know. Versus a trio of luchadors led by, I guess, possibly the world's most famous luchador. I think the outcome of this one really depends on what kind of bookers the Young Bucks want to be. It's their promotion. Do they want to be good ones, or do they want to be the McMahons? You know, forcing your way into every match possible, putting yourself over, giving yourself the W, inventing women if you're Stephanie. Because if that's the case, there's every chance the Bucks and Kota will be taking this one home. It is their show, after all. But I think in this case, it's more likely that the Bucks do their thing, give Kota a strong showing, but ultimately they let Rey and the Luchas take the win and look really good doing it. Either way, it's going to be a crazy spot fest. Next, Hangman Page versus Joey Janela. If you thought the last one was a crazy spot fest, wait till you see Joey Janela. The man has no fear, and not in a Pentagon Jr. kind of way, he's missing a few brain cells. While I imagine Joey's going to spend most of the match taking his life into his own hands, I think it's going to be Page that's walking out with the win. Next, it's Marty Scurll, the villain, versus Kazuchika Okada. I mean, Okada, surely. As much as I love the finger-snapping, chicken-wing maestro Marty, I just really doubt that New Japan were going to loan the Dave Meltzer star magnet out to All In to have him lose to Marty. However, I do think the two are going to have a fantastic match, and this is yet another big match for Marty Scurll, as he continues to move from someone I used to see on the UK scene to one of the world's top villains, up there with Cthulhu. Christopher Daniels versus Stephen Amell. The Fallen Angel versus the Arrow. A battle for the ages, depicted in religious iconography as far back as before the Renaissance, whatever that period was called. I can't help but get the feeling that Christopher's going to have to do the real heavy lifting in this one. Old Steve's wrestling career so far has basically stretched to one match at SummerSlam in 2015 and a match at Ring of Honor's Survival of the Fittest, where he joined the Bullet Club and helped Cody, Kenny and the Bucks knock off the Addiction, Flip Gordon and Scorpio Sky. And whost was in the Addiction, you're probably asking, but you're probably not because we're all wrestling fans here. It was Christopher Daniels. It was Christopher Daniels. Who was it that put Amell through the table as Survivor of the Fittest? Also Christopher Daniels. And who was it that Stephen Amell tagged with at SummerSlam? Neville. So with that in mind, and the fact that the Bucks have been teasing Neville for an appearance at All In, here's a fairly bold prediction. Neville comes out to help out his old buddy, Stephen Amell. Potentially Daniels is giving Amell a beat down following the match, and Neville can run out and make the save. Before that, I reckon Amell is going to have to take it. Next, it's Adam Cole's baby! Britt Baker versus Tessa Blanchard versus Ashley Rayne versus Chelsea Green. Tessa Blanchard is the current Impact Knockouts champion, so I feel like she's going to be taking home the win. And there is at least a little bit of interesting heat between her and Ashley Rayne, formerly Madison Rayne, to play into here. And also the fact that both of them have been competitors in previous Mae Young Classics. Kenny Omega versus Pentagon Jr. This one is hard to call because I think both guys are so good. However, I think again, this does just come down to the backstage machinery chugging along, as Kenny Omega is the current IWGP champion and technically on loan from them to compete here, so I can't see him losing to Pentagon, even if I think Pentagon winning would be really, really cool. But I think realistically, Kenny stands with more to lose, so I think he'll be the one picking up the win here. And Pentagon then is free to go off and join WWE or go back to Impact and win the championship again. That'd be good. Jay Lethal versus the winner of the over-budget Battle Royale for the Ring of Honor World Championship. Now, to complete the Cinderella story I set up earlier when I predicted the outcome of the over-budget Battle Royale, wouldn't it be good if Flip Gordon won the title here? I don't think it's going to happen, but I think it might be good. There is a glimmer of potential though if you think that Lethal got his second title run, because Dalton Castle was essentially one big walking injury for the last stretch of his run. So you've got to think at that point that Ring of Honor might be viewing Lethal as an interim champion of sorts, and therefore open to the idea that we could have someone, a newbie who's really hot at the moment like Flip Gordon, come in and just steal it all away. Probably not going to happen though, because Jay Lethal put out an open challenge on the latest Ring of Honor tapings that was answered by a video from Will Ospreay. They set a match for Death Before Dishonor on September 28th, so while the Cinderella story sounds lovely, I'm thinking Lethal retains to go and face Ospreay at Death Before Dishonor. And finally, what I think will be the main event, Nick Aldis versus Cody for the NWA Championship. Aldis has had a heck of a run as champion since winning the belt in December last year, starting off with 20 title defenses in 60 days, which was known as the Aldis Crusade and culminated in a match with Colt Cabana. However, while he's been booked incredibly strongly for the last year, you've got to think that this is a match for the NWA Championship, a belt which has a lot of meaning for the Rhodes family. It's one his dad held multiple times and cut some of his most famous promos while competing for, including the Hard Times one which he had while he was feuding with Ric Flair over the title. Well, if this match goes the way I'm predicting, Hard Times may not fall on the Rhodes family ever again with regards to this specific belt. Because picture the scene. Cody wins. He and Dusty Rhodes become the first ever father-son duo to have held the NWA Championship. It's a fairy tale ending. Cody winning a belt that was very important to his father on a show that is very important to Cody. His dad, a wrestler that many thought wouldn't be as wildly successful as he was, and All In, a show that many people didn't think would be as wildly successful as it's already been. That's not even happened yet. This would be the perfect ending to the show and probably one of the most talked about moments in wrestling this year. Which means that All In is on track to make Twitter explode essentially, so see you on Facebook. So those are my predictions for what I think is going to happen at All In. But I want to know what you think, so leave a comment down below with your predictions for what's going to happen on the show. And give us a subscribe to stay up to date with all of the latest wrestling news and good stuff. I've been El Fakador, and that was Lucha.